Okay, number one says, which equation describes a line that has a slope of 2/3 and a y-intercept of 4? Okay, what you need to understand here is this formula. And this formula is on your formula sheet for tax. It's called the slope-intercept form of an equation, and we're gonna use it quite a bit. So it's probably good to just memorize this. What it is when you have a linear equation in this form where you have y equals something, then you've got it in slope-intercept form, and you can see the slope is m. That's the slope, and the y-intercept is b. Okay? Y-intercept. So, when you have it in that form, it's real easy to see what the slope and the y-intercept are. So if the slope is 2/3, then we're going to have y equals 2/3 x plus, and then the y-intercept is 4, y-intercept is b, so 4 would go there, so answer A is correct. Number 2, slope is 1/2, and it passes through the coordinate 2, 4. Okay, now this is a little different. Okay, you have your slope, so you can plug that in for the m, but we don't know the y-intercept yet. So we're going to need to find that. Now, there are different ways you could go about doing this problem. One way that I want you to always remember is take these functions that you're given in your answers, plug them in where it says y equals on your calculator, and see if you get this point on there. Okay, this is one of the points that's on that line. Okay, so that point has to be on the line, whatever you come up with. So you can always fall back on that method. Just plug your answers in and see if they work. But another way you could do this is actually graph this line. Okay, they're telling us that the line goes through 2, 4. You know how to take that point and graph it. So you go graph it. Here's 2, 4, right here. And then it has a slope of 1/2. Well, a slope of 1/2 means it goes up 1 over 2. So it would also go down 1 and over 2 to the left. So we could go down 1 over 2 to the left, which would put it right here. So our line would be coming right through here. And now you can see that your y-intercept is 1, 2, 3. So your y-intercept is 3. Your slope is 1/2. They gave that to us. And now we can look at our answers. Well, this answer is not down here, but there is one that's the same as this. Remember, when you have a number out here in front of this parentheses, it means you multiply by everything in the parentheses. If we do that, use the distributive property, you get y equals 1/2 x plus 1/2 times 6, or 1/2 of 6, which is 3. Okay, so that is the answer. Okay? Which equation describes a line that passes through coordinates 1/9, 1, and -2/9, 0? Okay, now this problem is a little harder than the first two. Because what you have to do here, I'm going to erase this. What you have to do here, I'm going to do this one by graphing, just like we did on number 2. I'm going to graph this. But notice how we have these fractions, okay? And they're fractions that have 9 as the denominator. So what we need to do is we need to think of this as, I want to draw 9 marks in here. Like that. This would be 9/9. And I want to do the same thing going up. Okay. This would be 9/9. And remember, 9/9 is the same thing as 1. Okay? It's the same thing as 1 whole. Okay? But by doing this, now we can plug these numbers in better. 1/9 would be right here. Now this is still 0. This would be 1/9, 2/9, 3/9, and so on, until we get to 9/9, which is 1. So this point, 1/9, is right here for the x, and then the y is 1, so we need to go all the way up to 9/9, which is 1. So that's that point. And then here we have -2/9, 0. So -2/9 is going to be this way, and then the y is 0, so it's just going to be right here. Okay, so there we've got our 2 points. So now we can draw a line between those. And this is not going to be drawn to scale, but we're going to get a pretty good idea of what that line should look like. Now, for our slope, we can go ahead and count rise over run. Let's count up. Our rise from here to here is 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. And our run is 1, 2, 3. That is a slope of 3. Okay. Now look at your answers. The only one that has a slope of 3 is going to be this one. Look there. Even though they put this to the right side, the number that comes before the x is always the slope. We could have turned this around and said y equals 3x plus 2/3. Okay? But it's the number that's in front of the x that is the slope. So this one has a slope of 3. That's going to be the answer. Okay? 2/3 is going to be the y-intercept. And if you look here, we didn't draw this just right, but 2/3 is going to be somewhere up here. That's going to be our y-intercept. Okay? So number 3 is B. So when you have fractions like that, you got to think a little differently. Number 4. Which equation describes a line that has a slope of 1/2 and a y-intercept of 3? Okay? Same thing here. We don't have one that says exactly that. Be careful, because this one looks right, but again, it needs to say y equals 1/2 for the slope. Remember, the slope comes before the x. So it needs to say y equals 1/2 x, and the y-intercept is 3, so plus 3. Notice the difference here. This says 1/2 plus 3x. Okay, that's different. Again, this one, if you multiply it out, you get exactly what that says. 1/2 x plus 3. 1/2 times 6 is 3. So there's the answer. Okay, which linear function includes the points 2, -1 and 3, 3? Okay. Now, probably the easiest way to do this is to plug these functions in. Remember, f of x means the same thing as y. Okay? So you'd have y equals 4x minus 9. Y equals 3x plus 3, and so on. So plug those into your calculator, and then go to your table, see which one has these points in the table. And when you do this first function here, y equals 4x minus 9, you're going to get a table like this. And when you go to x equals 2, you're going to notice that the y is -1. And when you go to x equals 3, you're going to notice that the y is 3. That's how you know that's the correct answer. If you're not sure how to find the table on your calculator, make sure you ask me. Okay? Number 2. Same thing. Okay? I'm going to do this one a different way. I'm going to graph these points. -2, -1 is there, and 3, 4 is here. If I draw my line between those two, use a straight edge to get it as accurate as possible. Okay, it's not going to be perfect, but it's going to be close. Okay, what's the slope? Well, we count from this point to this point. It goes up 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and it goes over 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. So the slope is rise over run, 5 over 5. 5 over 5 equals 1. So the slope is 1. And the y-intercept looks like it's going to be right here at +1. So there's our answer. And, you know, you can do this one the same way you did this one. Just plug this in, y equals x plus 1. Go look at the table, see if those points are on there. And they will be. Those points will be on that function, or that line. Okay. Now I just showed you another way you could have done either one of these problems. Graph the points and see what the slope and the y-intercept are. Okay, what are the x and y-intercepts of the function shown below? Okay, these are fairly easy. Okay, you know what a y-intercept is. It's that point right there where the line crosses the y-axis. That point is 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Now what is it that's 6 there? Okay, it's the y. Okay, the x, at this point, the x, it's not right, it's not left. X is 0 right here. Y is 6. Now the x-intercept is just where the line crosses the x-axis. And it's going to be -1, 2, 3, 4, 5 for the x. And now the y is 0. Because you don't go up, you don't go down. The y is just right on 0. Okay, so those are the two intercepts. 0, 6, and negative 5, 0, right here. Okay. Number 2, same thing. Your x-intercept, we'll start with it this time. X-intercept is here. That's it. 0, negative 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. So 0, negative 8. So it's one of those two. And the y-intercept is out here at 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, positive 9, 0. So the answer is B. Okay. This says Daniel and AJ play one-on-one basketball games until one of them scores 24 points. They can shoot 2-pointers, X, and 3-pointers, Y. The final score can be found using the following equation. 2x plus 3y equals 24. Now, before we go on, notice in your equation, 2x comes from right here. The 2-pointers are x. There's this number of 2-pointers, and the 3y, there's this number of 3-pointers. So x represents the number of 2-pointers, y represents the number of 3-pointers. And you can see that in the equation. Okay, because you're going to multiply x by 2, because each one of those counts as 2 points. You're going to multiply y by 3, because each one of those shots that he makes counts as 3 points. And when you total up all the points, you get 24. Okay, and it says AJ wins and scores no 2-pointers. How many 3-pointers does he score? Well, if he scores no 2-pointers, let's take that and put it where it goes in the equation. If there's no 2-pointers, that just means x is 0. Okay? So you're going to say 2 times 0 plus 3y equals 24. Well, 2 times 0 is just 0, so we can just say 0 plus 3y equals 24. 0 plus 3y is really just 3y. Okay? So you solve that equation for y, divide by 3, and you get y equals 8. Okay, and it asks how many 3-pointers does he score. 3-pointers is, the number of 3-pointers is y, so that's what we solved for here. Y equals 8, and you need to bubble it in just like this. Okay. Number 2. When Daryl and Cheryl go to Rudy's, they buy brisket for $4.95 per pound and ribs for $5.45 per pound. They brought $11.88 to spend for lunch today. To decide how many pounds of brisket B and ribs R they can buy, they use the following equation. Okay, $4.95 for each pound of brisket. That's what we're told right here. And $5.45 for each pound of ribs, right here. And you total those up, okay? That tells you how much you spent on the brisket and the ribs. Total that up, has to be $11.88. If they decide they do not want any ribs today. Okay? What does that mean? If they're not going to buy any ribs, then up here where it says R, we're going to let that equal 0 because they don't want any ribs. So 4.95B plus 5.45 times R, but R is 0, so we can just put a 0 there. Okay? And we can just write it like that. We don't have to put anything in for 5.45R because it's just going to equal 0. It's not going to be any ribs. It's all going to be brisket. So we can just say 4.95B equals 11.88, and we solve that. Divide by 4.95 on both sides, and we get B equals 2.4. And make sure it makes sense. What are they asking for? It says how many pounds of brisket can they purchase. So 2.4 pounds at $4.95 a pound. If you multiply that out, you get $11.88. So 2.4 pounds. You need to bubble it in just like that. Okay, the graph of a line is shown below. Find an equation of a second line by subtracting 6 from the y-intercept. Okay. Here's your y-intercept. We call it B. B equals 2. And we want to subtract 6 from the y-intercept. In other words, we're going to move down 6. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Puts us at -4 right there. And you could have also said 2 minus 6 is -4. Okay, now it doesn't say anything about the slope, so we have to assume the slope stays the same. Okay, if you notice we have a slope of up 1 over 1. Okay, so M, slope equals up 1 over 1 is a rise of 1 and a run of 1, which equals 1. So our slope's not going to change. Our y-intercept is going to change to -4. We're going to have a line that looks like this. Okay, it's going to be parallel to this line, because parallel lines have the same slope. Okay, so right here, no, this one. This has a slope of 1 and a y-intercept of -4. Number 2. It says find an equation of a second line by multiplying the slope by 2 and adding 2 to the y-intercept. Let's do the y-intercept first. Here's the y-intercept. If you add 2 to that, it's real easy. You just go up 2. Be right here. Okay? So our new y-intercept is going to be at, this one's at 3. We add 2 to that. So our new y-intercept is going to be +5 or +5. One of these two. Okay. Now we need to look at our slope. We're going to multiply our slope by 2. Okay. So we need to know what this slope is so that we can multiply that number by 2. And let's look at it. I'm going to pick a couple of points here on the line. And I'm going to find my rise. Goes 1, 2, 3. That's down 3. And my run is 1, 2, 3. Okay? -3 over 3 is -1. That's the slope of that line. So we need to multiply that by 2. So -1 times 2 equals -2. Answer C has a slope of -2 and a y-intercept of 5. It's going to look like this. Slope of -2 means you go down 2 over 1. Down 2 over 1. Down 2 over 1. So it's going to look like that. Notice when the numbers get larger in the slope, we had a -1 slope here, -2 slope here, that when the absolute value gets larger, your line gets steeper. Okay? That's a slope of -2. That's a slope of -1. So the answer is C. Here, we're going to multiply the slope by -4 and subtract 2 from the y-intercept. Our y-intercept is at -1, 2, 3, 4, -5. We're going to subtract 2 from that. We get -7. Make sure when you're doing these sign numbers, use your calculator. Okay? Don't get confused with sign number rules. Just use your calculator. -5 subtract 2 gives you -7. So our new y-intercept is going to be right here at -7. And our slope, you can tell what the answer is already, because there's only one answer there that has a y-intercept of -7. It's this one. Okay? Well, let's go ahead and look at the slope. The slope's going to be -4. That's what we're going to multiply by. And our slope here is, let's see, I'm going to go from here to here. We're going to go down 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. Pick different points. Let's do these 2 points. And go down 1, 2, 3, 4, and over 2. So our slope on this line is down 4 over 2, which equals -2. Slope is -2. But we're going to multiply that slope by -4. So -2 is -4. Use your calculator. It's +8. Okay. And there it is. Slope of 8, y-intercept of -7.
Yeah, what he said.
Okay. Here we're going to multiply the slope by 3/4 and subtract 3 from the y-intercept. Y-intercept is there at -3. Subtract 3 from that, and you get -6. Our slope is, I'm going go between those 2 points, up 1, 2, 3, 4 over 1. Up 4 over 1 for a slope of 4. But I'm going to multiply that slope by 3/4, and my new slope will be 3, positive 3. So slope of 3, y-intercept of -6, right here. Okay, we're going to multiply the slope by 2, add 1 to the y-intercept. Our y-intercept is 6. We're going to add 1 to that. Our new y-intercept will be 7. You can tell right away this is going to be your answer. Okay. Our slope, go ahead and look at it. Our slope here, I'm just going to pick those 2 points. I'm going up 2, over 2. So slope is 1. Our new slope will be 1 times, I'm going to multiply by 2, so our new slope will be 2. Okay, answer A. We're going to add 3 to the y-intercept. It's at 6, and we're going to add 3, so it'll be 9. Okay, so it's either this one or this one. And our slope, we're going to divide by 2. So let's find our slope. We'll down 6 over 3. Down 6 is -6 over 3. Makes our slope -2. And we're going to divide our slope by 2. Okay, again, use your calculator. Here's our slope for this line. We're going to divide that by 2 and get -1. Okay. Slope is -1, y-intercept is 9. Okay. The cost of shipping a 10 to 20 pound P box is found using the equation C equals 0.15 P equals 1.2. And the 20 to 30 pound box is C equals 0.14 P plus 2.10. How does the graph of the 10 to 20 pound box compare to the graph of the 20 to 30 pound box?
Sorry to interrupt your classes. This is a busing announcement.
Okay, all you have to do is look at this number and this number for your slope. Okay, remember, it looks a lot like that equation, doesn't it? Where m is the slope. Okay, here you have the slope here with the p. Okay, and this is the y-intercept out here. So they want to know, how does the graph of the 10 to 20 pound box compare to the other one? So how does this graph compare to this one? Well, this one has a bigger slope. Okay, so the slope is greater, and the y-intercept here is smaller. So the slope is greater, and the y-intercept is smaller. Answer C. That's all there is to that. Number 2. It's the same thing. Okay. How does the graph of the first equation compare to the graph of the second equation? Okay. Here's the first equation. Here's the second. This one has a smaller slope. Okay. So the slope is smaller, and the y-intercept is the same. right there. Number 3, how does the graph of the 1 to 500 books compare to the graph of the 501 to 1,000 books? Okay, so here's our first equation, here's our second. How does this graph compare to this one? Slope is greater here than it is here. So the slope is greater and the y-intercept is greater here than it is here. So that's our A. Okay. Okay. On questions like this, you got to think back to 7th and 8th grade math, because that's what we're doing here. This is proportions. Proportions are very useful. And this is where you use them. Okay, it says Raymond is reading a map. On the scale of the map, 1 inch represents 2.4 miles. So 1 inch represents 2.4 miles. What you want to do when you set up your proportions, make sure you put your units in here. I've got inches on top, miles on bottom. As long as you'll do that, you'll never get these wrong. Okay? The reason people get proportions wrong is they put the numbers in the wrong place. But if you put your units in, just write them in like this, you're always going to get them right. Okay. If Raymond measures his route as 4 inches, well, where does the 4 go? It's going to go where the inches are, on top. Okay? 4 inches. How many miles will he travel? So it's the miles down here that we're looking for. Okay? And it's just a matter of cross multiplying. 2.4 times 4 is 9.6, and then 9.6 divided by 1 equals 9.6. Okay? And that's how you do proportions. You'll do that on every one of these. And I'm going to give you the other answers. If you want to work these out, make sure you stop the tape here, because I'm about to put all the answers up. Okay. Number 2 is B. Make sure on number 2 that you make a distinction between the amount that he makes and the amount that he sells. Down here, this number is the amount that he makes, and you're looking for the amount that he sells. Okay. Number 3 is D. Number 4 is D. And number 5 is C. You really need to understand that. I mean, that's something you just need to memorize. A triangle, the sum of the angles equals 180 degrees. And we're going to use that idea in this lesson quite a bit, so make sure you understand that. Now, if I take a rectangle, now you know a rectangle has 4 90-degree angles in it, so you could just add those up and find that it equals 360 degrees. Okay. But if it wasn't a rectangle, and it was just some 4-sided figure like this, quadrilateral, that's not very good, but yeah. Okay, it's not a rectangle anymore, but it is a 4-sided figure. One thing you could do is divide it up into two triangles like that. And since we know a triangle is 180 degrees, then two of them have to be 180 times 2, which is 360. Okay. If you have a five-sided figure, like that, I'm going to pick one point here, right here, and I'm going to draw triangles out from there. There and there. How many triangles do I have? There's 3 triangles, so I could say 3 times 180 equals 540, and so on. Okay. Every time you add another side, you're going to be able to draw another triangle in there, which is going to add another 180 degrees to the total sum of the angles. Okay, so let's use this information and apply it to this problem. Number 1, in the figure below, line segment JA here is parallel to line segment EI, and line segment NI is perpendicular to EI. So that makes a 90-degree angle. The measure of angle JAN is 110 degrees. Okay, JAN. Here's J, here's A, here's N. So JAN is this angle right here. And we're given that it's 110 degrees. Now we know these are all 90, so that's what the little symbol there means. So right angle, so it's 90. So we know those 4 angles, and they want us to find the measure of angle ANI. ANI, right here. So we just need to find this missing angle. Well, since it's a 5-sided figure, we can use this one, and from that we know that there needs to be a total of 540 degrees in these interior angles. Well, we've got all our angles except one, so what we can do is add these up, add these 4 angles up, and you get 380. And then you just subtract 380 from 540, and you get 160. So you would bubble in 160 just like that. Okay. The way we did this down here, here's my 5-sided figure. I'm going to draw my triangles there and there. 1, 2, 3 triangles. 3 times 180 for each triangle equals 540. Okay, number 2. Once again, we have a 5-sided figure. So again, it's going to be 540. If you want to draw the triangles, you can. Got 3 triangles. 3 times 180 is 540. So all these angles need to add up to 540. We know these 3 are 90. 90 times 3 is 270. Okay. And we don't know these 2. Now they're asking us for EPA, which is this angle right here, EPA. But we don't know it, and we also don't know this one, ENT. But we do know that these 2 are congruent. Their measures are equal. So if we take the 270 away from the 540, it leaves us with 270, which is what we've got left here. These 2 angles have to add up to that remaining amount of 270. And since they're equal, these 2 angles are congruent, then I can just divide 270 by 2. And I get 135. So I'll bubble in 135. Each of these angles is 135. And then all 5 angles would then add up to 540. Okay? I'm going to erase this. Okay. FR is parallel to EM and perpendicular to FE. The measure of FRA is 130. So I fill that in. And EMA is 125. Okay?
I gotta go.
Okay.
You wanna,
So we know four angles here. We just need to find RAM, which is this angle here. And that's the angle that's missing. So 90, 125, 130. Add those up, and you're going to get 435. Subtract that from, it's a 5-sided figure, so we've got to add up to 540, and then you get 105. Okay. Number 2. All right, there's something a little different. Notice how they spelled out hexagon right here. This is a hexagon. It's 6 sides. It's a 6-sided figure. If you want to go ahead and draw your triangles out, there and there. How many triangles are there? There's 4. 4 times 180 is 720. So these angles need to add up to 720. And whenever you have something like this where all the sides are congruent, then all the angles are also going to be congruent. This is called a regular hexagon. It's called a regular, any shape that's all the sides are congruent, it's called regular. This is a regular hexagon. So all the angles are going to be congruent, so we can just take the 720 and divide it by the number of angles, which is 6. And that equals 120. Angle HEX. That's one of these angles here, right there, but they're all the same. They're all going to be 120. So 120, just like that. Okay. In the figure below, 1, 4, 5, and 8, 1, 4, 5, and 8, these 4 right here, are congruent to each other. And 2, 3, 6, and 7. 2, 3, 6, and 7. Those are congruent. And the measure of angle 1 is 120. Okay, so here's angle 1. It's going to be 120. But if it's 120, I can't write that small. 120. If it's 120, then we know 4, 5, and 8 are also 120. Okay? Like that. What they want to know is, what is the measure of angle 2? Okay. I'm going to go ahead and erase this. We need to find angle 2. And we know 2, 3, 6, and 7 are all congruent. They tell us right here. What we need to know is how many degrees are in this entire figure. So we can draw our triangles. I'm going to start here at angle 1. I'm going to go up here, here, go to every vertex. There, and there. So I've got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 triangles. So you do 6 times 180, 180 for each triangle, remember? And that gives me 1080. So I have 1,080 degrees total in this figure. Well, we were told that this is 120, which makes these others 120 here, all 4 of these. So I could say 4 times 120 equals 480. Subtract that from 1080. Leaves me with 600. Okay, so there's 600 degrees left, which has to be split up between 2, 3, 6, and 7. And since we know 2, 3, 6, and 7 are congruent, then I can just divide by 4. 600 divided by 4 equals 150. Each one of those angles, 2, 3, 6, and 7, is going to be 150 degrees. Okay. So angle 2 is 150 degrees. Number 2. Got a 4-sided figure, which is like a rectangle. You know rectangles are 360 degrees. If you want to draw your triangles out, it would look like that. You form 2 triangles. 2 times 180 is 360. So 360 degrees. And we know these are 90. So 90 times 2 is 180. Subtract that from 360. That leaves me with 180 degrees to be split up between these 2 angles. And what I can do here is just write an equation based on what they're naming these. One of them is 2x, one is x. That just means that this one is 2 times this one. So I can say 2x plus x adds up to 180. So equals 180. And then I can just solve that for x. 2x plus 1x is 3x. So x equals 60. Okay, now you got to be careful though. Is that the answer? Let's go back and read the question. What is the measure of SID? Here's SID. So we're talking about this angle. Okay, we're not talking about x, we're talking about 2x. So if x is 60, then 2x is 2 times 60, which is 120. Okay, and we talked a little bit about this before. When I've got angles like this is something you really need to memorize. When you see a figure like this, where you have, these are called vertical angles, okay? These are congruent, okay? Since this is 50, and this is 50. Vertical angles, okay? These 2 angles would also be vertical. They would be the same. This one would be 130, this one would be 130. Okay, remember 50 plus 130 equals 180. So that would be 130, that would be 130. We don't need to know that here, but just a reminder. Okay, so since that's 50, we know this is 90. So this has to be, triangle has to add up to 180. So this has to be 40. Okay, so your answer is A. Number 2. Okay, they're telling us that this right here is 38 degrees, which means this is 38. Okay, and what they want to know here, this courtyard is formed by the intersection of these 4 streets. And they've kind of colored it in here. I'm going to go ahead and color it in a little more. I'm talking about this triangle right here. That's the courtyard. Okay. So right here. They want to know the measures of the angles of the courtyard. Show me 3 angles. Well, this one's 38. If this is 38, then this, since that's 90, then these two have to be 90, okay? Because all together those have to equal 180. So this, since this is a right angle here, this has to be a right angle. So these two have to add up to 90. They're complementary. So 38 plus 52 equals 90. So that angle is 52. That's one of the angles in our courtyard. This one is obviously 90. So 52, 90, and then this one has to be 38. So that the angles of the triangle add up to 180. So 52, 38, 90.